welcome every one of us. Today we shall be looking at theology of marriage, theology of Christian marriage, Catholic marriage. That is going to be our discussion today. Theology of Catholic marriage. So it's not just anyhow marriage, but we are talking about the Catholic marriage. Now, marriage, we know, is a sacrament. It's a sacrament or a holy union instituted by God himself. Now, when you study social studies, they will tell you that marriage was made by man, instituted by man. But we know, as we have read in the Gospel of today and then the Gospel and the book of Genesis from the Old Testament and the New Testament, that marriage was instituted, ordained by God himself, not made by man. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, God made them his own image. He made them, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then in Mark chapter 10, verses 6 to 7, from the beginning, the creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and then be united to his wife. With this, we can say marriage is a holy union. It's a sacred union. Marriage is a union, a holy union between a man and a woman. Not one man and many children, or many women rather. Not one woman with many men. It is not a holy union between a man and a man. It is not a union between a woman and a woman. It is not a union between a man or animal. It is a holy union, a sacred union between a man and a woman who freely on their own, not out of compulsion, not out of duress, not out of force, who on their own willingly say we are ready to take each other as husband and wife till death do us apart. We are ready to take each other till death do us apart. So one man, one woman. That is what we call unity in Christian marriage. So when we hear about unity in Christian marriage, this is a terminology that is used in the Catholic Church in marriage. Unity in marriage means one man, one woman. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 23, then Adam said, "This one at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." And so they are no longer two, but one body. Matthew chapter 19, verse 6. Marriage is a holy union between a man and a woman who freely, as I said, without compulsion, decide to take each other, to say we are ready to take each other as husband and wife. No external force. They are the one who willingly accepted on their own to enter into marriage, not by force. Marriage, by its nature, is a covenant. It is not just a contract, not just any agreement that is signed by two persons and they decide to walk out of it when they like, whenever they like. It is a covenant sealed in the blood of the Lamb, in the blood of Jesus. And that is why we say that the only thing that can separate or divide or terminate marriage is death, till death do us apart. So marriage is a holy covenant. So the priest that officiates at marriage is just a witness to that marriage. The couples or the couple themselves are the true ministers of the sacrament of marriage. So the priest or the deacon is just a witness to that marriage. So marriage is a covenant, though even though we have the part we say the contract going to local government, going to and so on to sign some document, all of them still boils down to what? Covenant, that marriage is a covenant. Because marriage is a covenant, it enjoys what we call indissolubility and permanency. As I said, the only thing that can dissolve, that can terminate marriage is death. Matthew chapter 19 verse 5. What God has joined together, let no man or woman put asunder. So marriage enjoys indissolubility and permanency. Apart from that, not even sickness, not even childlessness, not even poverty can bring about the termination of marriage in Catholic Church. Not childlessness, or not sickness or poverty. So in the Catholic Church, we do not talk about divorce. There is no room for divorce in marriage in the Catholic Church. In short, when we read the book of Malachi chapter 2, verse 16, it said that God hates divorce. Malachi chapter 2, verse 16, God hates divorce. Now, the nature of marriage, by nature of marriage, we say that marriage is a bond, a conjugal part, a conjugal bond. Marriage is a covenant. In marriage, we have what we call oneness. They are no longer two, but one. It is no longer I. Then we have detachment by nature. A man leaves his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they become one body. One. Indissolubility and permanency, I've explained that. Then there are elements of Christian marriage. Elements of Christian marriage. We say that marriage is a holy union that is made up of the following elements. It is a union of the opposite sex. I've already explained that. Elements of Christian marriage. I was able to bring out three. That is a union of the opposite sex, a man and a woman. It is a lifelong union, ending only with the death of one of the spouses. It excludes a union with any other person so long as the marriage exists, and so on. So we can see the three elements of Christian marriage. The other subtitle is, what are the purposes or reasons for Christian marriage? What are the reasons or purposes for Christian marriage? The first is companionship. Companionship. Marriage is for suitable companionship between the man and the woman. The man and the woman. This means that the man and the wife live in communion with each other. Second, the good of the spouses. Marriage is for the good of the spouses, one of the reasons or purposes of Christian marriage. Marriage is a loving relationship for the physical good of the spouses, spiritual good of the spouses, and of course the sexual pleasure involved in it. The third purpose of Christian marriage is procreation. Procreation is giving birth. Every marriage is open for procreation. Every marriage is open for procreation. Genesis chapter 1 verse 28. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. This is just an aspect or interpretation of an aspect of this passage of this scripture. So every marriage is open for procreation. Every sexual act should be open for procreation of children. We are privileged to participate in the creative art of God by this being creators. However, marriage does not depend on the procreation of children alone for either its legitimacy or its morality. Yeah, we have seen cases where people who are already 70 years are marrying. So we cannot say because they are not going to have therefore it is not legitimate. No. We have seen that we wed people who are already 70. Of course, we know, humanly speaking, may not be possible for them to have children. The fourth purpose or reason for Christian marriage is education of children or good of the children. It is not just enough to have children, but we must educate them, teaching them morals, ensuring that they attend catechism classes, not just only sending them to the best schools in town where you pay fees that are so high. Those are very good, but we must ensure that they learn their faith, they learn the teaching of the church. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should grow, and when he grows, he or she will never depart from it. So education of children, physical, social and cultural, moral, religious upbringing of the children, they are very, very important. And then the fifth purpose or reason for Christian marriage is for the good of the society. The good of the society. Good marriage produces good members of the society, because the family is the bedrock of the society. Foundation won't destroy. What can the righteous do? Since we are looking at Catholic marriage, we look at the requirements for getting into or marrying in the Catholic Church. Marriage is one of the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church, and as such, it is a supernatural institution, as I've already explained, as well as a natural one. The Church, therefore, restricts sacramental marriage to men and women who meet certain requirements. Some of the requirements: 1, a baptized Christian. Both partners do not have to be Catholic in order to be sacramentally married in the Catholic Church. But both of them must be Christian, at least one must be a Catholic. One of them must be a Catholic. 2, requirement to marry in the church: not to closely related. Legal prohibition on marriage between cousins. Cannot marry your cousin. Or other close blood relations such as uncle marrying their niece. We forbid that. 3rd one, free to marry. If one of the spouse or the partners, the Catholic or non-Catholic Christian, has been married before, he or she is free to marry only if the spouse is dead. But so long as the spouse is still alive, you cannot marry. So the mere act of divorce is not sufficient to prove the nullity of marriage, even when the court, if those who go to court, had given the verdict, still existing sacramentally. Of the opposite sex of your partner, we do not permit marriage between people of the same sex. We do not permit that in marriage. Then the 5th one is in good standing with the church. It's a requirement. If a politician, for instance, who promotes abortion or who is in favor of contraceptives, the church has right to deny the person of marriage. So you cannot marry. The church can deny such a person, somebody who promotes gay marriage and so on, and he wants to marry in the church can deny such a person. Support of or legalization of abortion, and so on. He can be denied sacramental marriage in the church. Some impediments to a valid marriage, an impediment to a matrimonial consent that may affect marriage validity. There are some impediments. that may affect marriage. First, not being of the proper age. Not being of a proper age. In the church, we talk about 16 for men and 14 for women. So if someone marries someone who is underage, a minor, that marriage can be annulled. Impediments. Antecedent, that is number 2, and perpetual impotency to have sexual intercourse. After marriage, and it is discovered that the man is impotent, that marriage is annulled in the Catholic Church. Third, being bound by a previous marriage. You have a prior marriage, the marriage that is still existing. We have seen people who have done that, married outside the country and then coming back to Nigeria. So if it is discovered, that marriage will be annulled. The fourth, lacking the sufficient use of reason. Someone who cannot reason enough, and you go ahead to marry the person would not know that marriage, what marriage entails, that marriage could be annulled or will be annulled because it doesn't have the sufficient reason. Suffering from a grave defect of description of judgment concerning essential matrimonial rights and duties mutually to be handed over and accepted, e.g., for example, not understanding that marriage entails sexual activity, that marriage will be annulled. Seventh, not able to assume the duties on essential obligations of marriage for a cause of psychic nature. Of course, when the person is not really insane, and then going to marry and discovered to be annulled. Second, the eighth, being ignorant that marriage is a permanent partnership between a man and a woman, ordered for procreation of offspring. I have attended a marriage in a wedding ceremony. I was the one that preached at that mass. And then during the time for the exchange of consent, the lady in question said she was not taught that marriage is for better, for worse. She mentioned that we have to stop the mass. We have to stop the mass. The rest, story. It's a very long story. The night one, thinking that you are marrying one person when you are actually marrying another. That is what we call error concerning person. Especially, for instance, a twin brother, identical twins, and you feel that the one you are marrying is the eldest one, or what they call a Jimmy, and it's something like that. Only for you to discover that that is not the person you actually love. They deceived you because they are identical twins. And it is proven that marriage could be annulled. Having been deceived, that is the 10th one, by malice, having been deceived to obtain consent. Either what we call you adopt someone or kidnap someone to marry the person, and it is or by force, that marriage will be annulled because marriage is not done by force. It is freely to be given, the consent freely to be given by the spouses involved. Types of Catholic marriage. In the Catholic Church, we identify 3 types of marriages. First is a marriage between 2 baptized Catholics. Marriage between 2 baptized Catholics. Then we have the second one, mixed marriage. Then we have the third one, disparity of court. Now let me explain the mixed marriage. A mixed marriage is a marriage between a Catholic and a baptized Christian of the church or churches recognized by the church. When a Catholic marries an Anglican, a Methodist, a Baptist, a Presbyterian, that is what we call mixed marriage. One person is a Catholic and the other is not a Catholic but baptized in any other church. There are requirements for them to enter into this mixed marriage. There are requirements. I will quickly mention them. It requires permission of a diocesan bishop or the bishop or the archbishop or the parish priest. The marriage should take place in the Catholic Church before an authorized minister. The non-Catholic partner must not receive communion in the Catholic Church. The bishop may permit, pay attention to this, the bishop may permit its celebration in the non-Catholic Church for grievous or serious pastoral reasons. I have seen that a priest, or rather someone that the father is a bishop in an Anglican church, a bishop, and the daughter was to wed a Catholic partner. So they did that in the Anglican church for pastoral reason. But the priest is not to officiate. The priest may attend as a witness, but not to officiate in the church, in the particular church. The Catholic partner, that is the number 5, must not receive Holy Communion in the non-Catholic church if it is celebrated in the non-Catholic church. So the one that is a Catholic should not receive Holy Communion. After the marriage, they may have what we call blessing or thanksgiving in the church of the one who is not a non-Catholic. That is not sacramental. Thanksgiving is not sacramental there. Then we have what we call the third one, disparity of court. Disparity of court is a marriage between a Catholic and a Pentecostal. For instance, Deeper Life, Cherubim and Seraphim, 7 Days Adventist, traditional religion, Muslim, pagans. These are what we call disparity of court. A Catholic marrying a pagan or a Muslim is not a mismarriage, but disparity of court. There are regulations too that guide them. First, that the marriage will be celebrated in the Catholic Church, that the children to be raised in the Catholic faith. Even at the death of the one who is a Catholic, the children should be raised in the Catholic Church. So the man or the woman who is not a Catholic must be made aware of this and sign that himself must be taught the Catholic faith also, even though he's not going to become a Catholic. So there are so many things there. Dispensation, not a permission from the bishop. It's a dispensation from the bishop. Otherwise, the marriage will be invalid. There is a dispensation from the bishop. The non-Catholic partner must be made aware of the declaration that is making that the children will be brought up in the Catholic faith. I remember when I was newly ordained, there was this young man, a Methodist. He's a pastor now, he's a bishop in Benin. He's a medical doctor in UBTH. Then he was not a bishop, but he was one of their priests. So there was this young lady he wanted to marry. And then when we gave the condition for both for the mixed marriage, the man said no, that he will not marry. And then after 6 months, he came back and said, I will allow my children to practice the faith. We are still in communication after 12 years I did that marriage. We still talk. He works in UBTH, Benin. Church's teaching on marriage. Church's teaching on marriage. We are to avoid rush marriages. People come and say, Father, do it 2 weeks. Let us marry for 2 weeks. Marriage class, rather, for 2 weeks. Where does rush marriages are disastrous. So they are the couples, intending couples to be, are to complete the marriage process, the classes. No couple has absolute right to Catholic marriage. The priest can refuse, delay a Catholic marriage for pastoral reasons. No partner should be forced to embrace the religion of another for the sake of marriage. I equally have an experience too, because I have worked in the parish. I had an experience. There was this young lady, when we were in the secondary school. She sings very well. We enjoy her singing very, very well, especially Catholic songs. She's a Catholic. And then, when I was ordained, I happened to celebrate the marriage, to officiate the wedding, not knowing that she made an agreement with the husband that after the wedding, they will go back to their church, that she will follow him to the church, to his own church. And we celebrated the marriage. And after some time, I was not seeing her in the church again, because I worked in their parish, until she told me, and the husband came also, that the wife is no longer a Catholic. This was the agreement that he made before the marriage in the Catholic Church. I've experienced that too. Confirmation before marriage. Confirmation roots us more firmly in the faith. It gives us a special character and grace, because some people may not be confirmed, but it's still weird. Unmissed marriage. Avoid it if you can. Avoid it if you can. If not, make sure that you discuss your differences before going into the marriage. 3 instances for the solution of marriage. The solution of marriage. A marriage validly contracted can be dissolved under 3 conditions. Note this, that is different from annulment. A sacramental marriage, marriage that had been valid rather, for a very good reason, provided the marriage has not yet been consummated by sexual intercourse or relationship, can be dissolved. Canon 1141, a marriage which is ratified and consummated cannot be dissolved. A marriage that has been consummated, ratified, cannot be dissolved by any human power or by any cause other than death. Then when you read Canon 1142, it says, but a non-consummated marriage between baptized person or between a baptized party and unbaptized party can be dissolved by the Roman pontiff for a just reason, at the request of both of them, or even at the request of one, even though the other may not be willing. So the marriage could be dissolved. Missed marriage and disparity of court. If there is a life-threatening of soul, the faith of the person who is a Catholic, the marriage could be dissolved, even though it has already been entered validly. Remember that when one of the conditions for disparity of court or mixed marriage, you must allow the Catholic partner to practice his or her faith. So when there is a threat to practice of the faith, the church can dissolve such marriage. Marriage between two unbaptized persons, when one of the partners is converted and baptized, but the conversion is not accepted by the one who is not baptized, that marriage could be dissolved. Marriage by unbaptized person, not done in the church, unbaptized person. That's what unbaptized person, they are married, let's say, traditionally. And then one of them decides to become a Catholic and being baptized. And then the other one say, no, you cannot become a Christian. The church can dissolve such marriage because it has not been done sacramentally. We have other tips that will help us just for the sake of time. And we quickly mention some foundations of Christian marriage, tips that will help us in marital life. One is love. Husband and wife should love each other to make their home beautiful, sweet, and enjoyable. Second, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Do not let resentment lead you into sin. Do not go to bed without forgiving each other. Third, openness, fidelity, and no keeping of secrets. You must be open to each other because you are no longer two, but one. Fourth, understanding and patient with each other. You must be patient with each other, understand your differences, and then able to be patient with each other. Then you will enjoy your marriage. Fifth, gratitude, appreciation, and thanks. Learn to appreciate each other. Learn to say thanks to each other. Sixth, help each other to actualize potentials, dreams, and desires. Help each other to actualize dreams and potentials. Seventh, being romantic in marriage. Celebrate your wedding anniversaries. Celebrate your birthdays. Go out for picnics and so on. These are ways in which you enjoy your marriage. 8, avoid third party. We have so many in-laws in marriage today, especially in Nigeria. Brother-in-laws, sisters-in-laws, uncle-in-laws, friends-in-laws, children and grandchildren-in-laws, and so on. So we must avoid third parties. 9, prayer. You cannot do without God. We need to pray. Husband and wife, pray together. And when God blesses the marriage with children, you pray with your family. A family that prays together stays together. Once again, thank you for granting me the grace, or rather the opportunity, to speak to you on Christian marriage, on Catholic marriage. We thank the Dominican media of Nigeria and Ghana for streaming this live. For those who are watching, thank you for listening, and you may now ask your questions. Thank you.